Ever thought of retiring somewhere that's as lush as a postcard, but has more rainbows than a pride parade? Well, that's New Zealand for you, home of epic landscapes, welcoming vibes, and gay-friendly laws that'll make you say Kaiaura. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We've covered Portugal, Canada, Uruguay, Mexico, and more. Now we're off the Antipodes. What are the best cities in New Zealand for gay people to retire?
Well, this is Queer Money episode number 600, and we're continuing our global analysis to help you find a fabulous place to retire. So New Zealand ranks in the top 10 of Spartacus gay travel indexes, best places for LGBTQ plus people, but it's a little bit underrated for LGBTQ plus retirees. Unfortunately, David and I had the privilege of being able to visit New Zealand for 9 days in 2012. And I will say, I've never felt so far away from home in my entire life. Like there's an actual psychological, like you're like, I'm so far away from home. Makes you think about when people go out into space, how much they must feel like they're far away from home. But I will say, when we went from the North Island to the South Island, I felt like we were floating through Middle Earth.
Right.
It was really, really cool. So 2 weeks ago, we covered Uruguay. There's some great discussions going on, especially on YouTube, about Uruguay. So definitely check out the discussion there. And if you've been to Uruguay, either for long-term or for just a brief visit, definitely add your contribution to that discussion. The more information we have there, the better people can make better decisions. In 2 weeks, we're going to cover David's former home, and Rosie O'Donnell's current home, the great country of Ireland.
Right.
So look out for that coming soon. But of course, this week we're covering the great country of beautiful NZ. So comment what we get right, what we got wrong, what your experience was there, whether you were there for a short time or for really long.
All right, so we're going to rank the cities from 5 to 1. Coming in at number 5 is Christchurch. Now, Christchurch is in the center of the South Island. Remember that New Zealand is primarily 2 large islands. Well, Christchurch is in the center of the South Island. What makes it a great city? Well, it is green, full of greenscapes. It also has a regenerating city center. Now, this may be in part to the fact that it seems to be kind of destroyed from time to time because of earthquakes. As a matter of fact, when John and I went down there in 2012, just the year prior, there had been a major earthquake, and there was a travel agent who said, please do not go to Christchurch because the people there are struggling themselves enough to just live daily life, let alone have tourists come in. The other thing is it has European charm. It is also the gateway to the New Zealand Alps, beautiful mountains. Some of the downsides is it is a slightly smaller city than places like Auckland or Wellington, so it's just going to have less services. As far as the LGBTQ vibe, it is quiet and solid. It does have events like Christchurch Pride, which happens in March, lesbian balls, which comes up again in this episode, and a growing social network. Some of the queer perks are there are lots of friendly locals. There are great anti-discrimination laws all across the country, and Christchurch does have a decent healthcare network. As for cost of living, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom is going to run you anywhere between $1,200 and $1,500 US a month. The cost of living in general is about 15% lower than the US average, which makes it a slightly more affordable lifestyle there. And for all of this, we're giving it a Queer Money retirement rating of 7 out of 10, primarily because of the charm and the green, the great value, but remember, it does have a much more modest LGBTQ infrastructure.
Coming in at number 4 on my list is Queenstown, which is in the south central area of the South Island. Why is it great? Well, it is the adventure capital of New Zealand. It's got mountains, it's got lakes, it has hiking, it has bungee jumping, which I will never do in my entire life, it got snowboarding and skiing, all that stuff. So if you're the older active gay, this is the place to go. That unless the activity includes drinking, David and I probably won't be there. The downside is, for all those reasons, it can be very tourist-centric, right? So you have your peak season when the tourists are there, which can be fun, but also can get kind of annoying. But then on the flip side, when the tourists go, it can be somewhat of a reprieve, but after a while, it can be kind of depressing. Having lived in Vegas for 2 years, we kind of understand what that fluctuation is like. So there's a constant push and pull there. As for the LGBTQ plus vibe, they've got Winter Pride. Yes, it's actually a thing. You can bundle up and hide all your belly fat, which would be great to do. And for this location, you're finding your more sporty, inclusive gay. It's your more outside, active gay vibe. The queer perks are that it's event focused, the queer community is, and safe, and it's very welcoming. Average 2-bedroom rents in Queenstown goes for $1,900 to $1,200 US a month. The cost of living is closer to the U.S. national average. Of course, it has the higher peak season, which can be a little bit more expensive, and of course, the lower season when it can be a little bit cheaper. But you also have to factor in the Kiwi exchange rate. So for all of these reasons, we're giving Queenstown 8 out of 10 on our Queer Money retirement rating card. It's adventure-filled and inclusive, though the seasonal rent can maybe make your eyes pop once in a while.
Exactly. Coming in at number 3 is our third city from the South Island, and that is Dunedin. Dunedin is on the south coast of the South Island, so you're much closer to the South Pole. Why is Dunedin a great city? Well, it is a very student-rich city. Lots of higher education opportunities here. It is also an artsy and historic city. It does have South Coast beauty, so you are on the water there, but it does have a slower pace of life. Some of the downsides is it is a smaller city, so there are going to be fewer venues, LGBTQ venues, of course, and fewer opportunities to get there or get out of there, in part because you're not going to be typically flying into Dunedin. You're going to be flying from some other place if you're coming from out of the country and then flying down to Dunedin. Some of the queer perks here are that it has a warm community, a lower cost of living, and decent healthcare. As far as the LGBTQ vibe, there is an organization called Proud Unique, and Unique is spelled UNIQ, and that is an organization that basically brings together all of the LGBTQ students from around the city for various events and activities. There are lesbian balls, as we mentioned that earlier. There's a growing queer student energy there, so that is a great thing to have. The population of this city, 7.3% of the city identify as members of the LGBT community, which is the second highest for all the cities in New Zealand. And the reason we know this is because the actual New Zealand census does track whether or not an individual identifies as LGBTQ or not, which is an amazing thing. It shows that they're not only interested in the community, but they're welcoming. As far as cost of living, you're going to be looking at around $1,000 to $1,300 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. That kind of is in line where what we see usually in university towns, right? There's usually a slightly lower cost of living or lower rent because students in general cannot afford the everyday lifestyle like most people can that have a job. As far as cost of living in general, you're going to see it's about 25% lower than the U.S. average, so it is much more affordable. For all of this, we're giving it a Queer Money retirement rating of 8 out of 10 because it's affordable, it's tight-knit, it's got the academic scene going on there with a very warm and welcoming queer community. And if you're trying to stay young by being around other young people, this may be the place for you.
Okay, Dracula. Our runner-up is, maybe no surprise to anybody here, is Wellington, which is on the southern tip of the North Island. It's great because it gives you all sort of that capital city coziness, right? It's compact, it's easily walkable, it's got a great coffee culture, theaters, harbor views, everything for the more cultural gay, right? The downsides are that it's a bit windy, so if Chicago upsets you, maybe stay away from Wellington. And then there are step-up costs in rent, which what that means is that there are predetermined periods of time when rents are increased, indexed to various or predetermined metrics, which may or may not be the consumer price index or the country's GDP. You'd have to research that a little bit more, but be aware that those step-up costs do happen on a periodic, predetermined basis.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to think about. It's kind of similar to rent controls in New York. That's a good thing for individuals who are living on a fixed income because you know when to plan for there's a possibility. And you're not going to see like rents go up by 25% while the cost of living is only going up by 3%.
Yeah. The LGBTQ plus vibe is progressive. It's artsy. It has a tightly knit queer community. And Wellington Pride draws over 8,000 people per year, which might sound small to many of us, but you have to remember this is a country that has more sheep than people. And this is our first city on the list that actually has gayborhoods. The two popular gayborhoods in Wellington, one is Newtown, which has a gay population density of 19.1. And then there's Arrow Valley, which is the gayest suburb in all of Wellington. It is 21.6% density of LGBTQ plus people. Oh my gosh. Could you imagine if MAGA had to spend a weekend there?
One in 5 people that you see is a member of the LGBT community.
And then of course because of the higher population of LGBTQ plus people, there are the LGBTQ plus bars and nightlife. Popular ones include Ivy, as well as Scotty and Mal's Cocktail and Lounge Bar. So if you're in Wellington, definitely check out those locations and more. The queer perks are that it's a very LGBTQ plus supportive city. has high visibility for LGBTQ plus people. And of course, as David had alluded to earlier, the national protections for LGBTQ plus people are strong. The average rent for a 2-bedroom apartment goes for $1,500 to $1,800 a month. The cost of living is similar to that of Auckland, which you might hear more about here later. It's about 9% below the U.S. national average, though utilities and transportation can kind of make it a little bit more expensive. For all these reasons, we give Wellington a Queer Money retirement rating of 9 out of 10. It's got great walkability, plus a great queer culture, and also just great culture overall. For all these, it's a top-tier city with heart.
So, as John alluded to, coming in at number 1 is Auckland.
Is there really any surprise to anybody?
Yeah. I don't think it is a surprise. So Auckland is on the north end of the North Island, so you're a little bit closer to the equator, a little bit warmer. The great things about Auckland, it is the urban chic capital of New Zealand, but it also has great beaches. It also has a great island off of the mainland that is basically Napa. It's all vineyards on a small island that's about a 45-minute ride on a ferry over to that area.
Beautiful island.
Yeah.
Definitely worth the trip.
The city is bustling with arts and world-class dining. It has a thriving queer community. Neighborhoods are buzzing with LGBTQ nightlife. That's some of the great things about it. Some of the downsides, it's pricey. It's urban living, and we know that usually comes with a premium, and it definitely does here. So what's going on with the LGBTQ vibe? Well, it's vibrant, cosmopolitan. It has the biggest pride festival in New Zealand. That's Auckland Pride. That draws thousands. As for neighborhoods, there are 2 we'll call out here. One is called Ponsonby. The other one, we don't know the Maori word or how to say the Maori word, but even the locals call it K-Road. And as for bars, 2 of the popular ones are Gay Auckland and Eagle Bar. Some of the queer perks is that there are tons of LGBTQ venues. There's a strong LGBT community. Again, great protections for the queer community in general here. And there's also top-tier healthcare. As for the cost of living, you're looking at about $1,600 to $1,900 US dollars for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So maybe just slightly below or about the same as the US. As for overall cost of living, you're seeing it to be about 7 to 10% below the US average. And for all these reasons, we're giving it a Queer Money retirement rating of 8 out of 10 because it has big city, cheeky vibes for the queer community with great queer infrastructure. But remember, Wallace beware.
So why is Auckland our number 1 spot, but Wellington got a higher Queer Money retirement rating? Well, Auckland is just simply more well-rounded. It offers the best combination of queer life, queer nightlife, services, amenities, international access to around the world. And it even comes with a slightly higher cost of living. So you have a larger LGBTQ plus scene. It's actually the largest in NZ. International connectivity, more lifestyle options, more healthcare options, and a slightly bigger expat community.
So which of these cities sounds more like your vibe? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to grab your free Happy Gay Retirement Calculator to start planning your fabulous retirement as soon as possible. For the Queer Money Retirement Rating Card and our scoring criteria, go to queermoneypodcast.com/cities or click the link in the description or your podcast player.
Then join us next week when we cover the high cost of the U.S. exit tax for those who are renouncing their U.S. citizenship. And then in 2 weeks, as we alluded to earlier, we'll be covering the great country of Ireland. If you love this particular episode, though, please remember to like, subscribe, set notifications, and share it with your fabulous friends who want to retire abroad. And until next time, stay fabulous. If you want to retire abroad where they still speak English and don't have to necessarily go to the other end of the world, check out this particular episode where we cover retiring in Canada.